As the US election looms, Russia and Ukraine are amplifying their military tactics in a series of escalations that underscore both the intensity of the conflict and the strategic value on the global stage. The recent surge has seen Russia dispatch 96 drones and a guided missile over Ukraine in a single night, as well as deploying 900 guided bombs, 500 drones, 30 missiles over the past week. Ukraine air defences have managed to intercept 66 drones, with electronic jamming diverting an additional 27, a testimony to both the resilience of Ukraine and the strain on their resources. Mr. Zelensky, the president, has seized on these attacks to renew his plea for long-range capabilities. His appeal on social media underscores Ukraine's frustration with Western reluctance to permit the use of such weaponry for strikes on Russian soil. As I've said before, Ukraine is developing its own ballistic missiles, so very soon it's not going to be necessary anyway. But Zelensky's message is blunt. Only these tools can allow Ukraine to address not only incoming drones and missiles, but also preemptive strikes on training camps. And it's essential for Ukraine to take out the batteries that are sending the thermobaric bombs, for example, and to stop the push forward of North Korean soldiers, which Russia may be deploying as part of its partnership with Pyongyang. And this push for advanced support also ties with Ukraine's call for tighter sanctions, targeting Russia's access to Western components essential for their drone and missile production. Despite sanctions, Russia appears to maintain a steady stream of technology for its weaponry. How? Much of it assembled from parts from Western nations. Where does it get these parts? Over 2,000 Western-made components were reportedly identified in Russian weapons used in October alone, highlighting gaps in enforcement. That Ukraine says absolutely these gaps must be urgently closed. We have a very peculiar understanding of sanctions. Sanctions, this sort of financial sanctions, they're a blunt tool. But the sanctions that tell us that we should not be sending components that can be used in missiles seem fairly straightforward. Meanwhile, Russia is actively countering Ukrainian drone incursions on its own territory. Its defense ministry announced the interception of 19 Ukrainian drones across 3 Russian regions, with 1 civilian fatality in Belgorod. This growing domestic toll is fueling a stark shift in Russian rhetoric, and notably Patriarch Kyril, the man with gold cufflinks the size of which I've never seen before, head of the Russian Orthodox Church, has now publicly condoned the death penalty, framing it as a measure supported by Christian doctrine. Jesus would support it, he said, if necessary for the protection of the state. It's a nonsensical position. He's argued that Christian scripture permits killing under certain circumstances, citing 1 Corinthians 5:3. He told a veterans meeting on Monday that Christ didn't condemn capital punishment. After all, he himself suffered a quote, undeserved execution. So therefore, if it's good enough for Christ, it's good enough for you. It is madness. His endorsement, an implicit call to harden Russia's stance, coincides with mounting pressure on the Kremlin to intensify its responses. For Ukraine, the timing of this intensified campaign is strategic, given the uncertain landscape of US politics. The Biden administration has just announced a $425 million military aid package, aiming to reaffirm its support, but Ukraine faces a potentially different outlook should the White House change hands. US backing remains critical, and Zelensky is aware of a shift. Any shift in American political winds could affect the flow of military aid or alter the strategic calculus in Kyiv. In essence, both nations are testing the limits of their tactics and international partnerships with each volley of drones, each sanction appeal or religious endorsement acting as a signal to the global players that are interested in what's going on in Ukraine. As the US prepares to vote, Ukraine and Russia are setting the stage for a conflict where military might and political alignment are increasingly intertwined, knowing that the results could impact the trajectory of this horrific war and the result of Putin's invasion.